Over 100 settlers arrive in the New World, ready to build the first English colony in America. Then, they vanish. No bodies, no signs of a struggle, just a deserted settlement and one cryptic clue carved into a tree: Croatoan. The question that's haunted historians for centuries remains: what really happened to the Roanoke Colony? Was it a violent attack, starvation, disease, or something far more mysterious? Today, we're unraveling the mystery of Roanoke, one of the greatest unsolved disappearances in history. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll have your own theories. We'll dive into the clues left behind, starting with that strange word, Croatoan. Was it a signal for help, a hint at their new location, or was it something even more ominous? But Roanoke isn't just a mystery. It's a lesson in survival, human resilience, and the dangers of colonizing an unknown world. So hit that subscribe button, because what we're about to uncover will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about Roanoke. In 1587, the English crown, eager to establish a permanent foothold in the New World, sent 115 settlers across the Atlantic. This wasn't just a typical expedition. It was England's ambitious attempt to rival Spain's dominance in the Americas. Led by Governor John White, the settlers set sail for Roanoke Island, an isolated land off the coast of what is now North Carolina. Their mission was to create the first lasting English colony, full of hope and dreams for a better future. These settlers, men, women, and even children, were embarking on a journey into the unknown, determined to make this new world their home. Upon arriving at Roanoke, the settlers quickly began constructing a fort and building homes. At first, things seemed promising. The island was abundant with natural resources, and they believed they could cultivate crops to sustain themselves. But the reality of life in this strange land soon hit them hard. The environment was harsh, the weather unpredictable, and the soil was difficult to farm. They struggled to grow enough food to feed everyone, and soon the threat of starvation loomed large over the colony. Adding to their troubles were the complex relations with the local Native American tribes. The settlers were initially met with mixed reactions. Some tribes were willing to trade and interact, while others saw the English as invaders. As tensions escalated, the settlers found themselves increasingly isolated, unsure of where they stood with their neighbors. Fear of conflict became a constant undercurrent of their daily lives. By the time winter approached, the situation had grown dire. Food supplies were dangerously low, and the settlers faced the harsh reality that they were unprepared for the brutal conditions of Roanoke. Desperation set in, and Governor White was forced to make a decision that would change the fate of the colony forever. In 1588, he made the heart-wrenching choice to sail back to England to gather much-needed supplies, leaving behind his family, including his daughter and granddaughter Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the New World. White had promised the settlers he would return quickly with the provisions they needed to survive. However, his return was delayed for an agonizing 3 years due to the Anglo-Spanish War, which consumed England's resources and attention. When he finally returned in 1590, what awaited him was beyond comprehension. The settlement was deserted, no bodies, no signs of a struggle, just silence and a cryptic clue. The word Croatoan was carved into a post, and Caro was etched into a tree. The colony had vanished without a trace, and what happened next? That's where the mystery deepens. When Governor John White returned to Roanoke in 1590, he wasn't greeted by the joyous reunion he had envisioned. Instead, he was faced with a chilling and eerie silence. The colony he had left behind, the homes, the fort, the settlers, including his family, was gone. No signs of life, no bodies, no evidence of a violent attack, just an empty settlement and 2 cryptic carvings: Croatoan on a post and Cro on a nearby tree. It was as if the settlers had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only these strange, unexplained clues. White's immediate assumption was that the settlers had moved to nearby Croatoan Island, now known as Hatteras Island, where a friendly Native American tribe lived. Before he left for England, White and the settlers had agreed on a plan. If they were forced to relocate, they would carve a sign indicating their destination. But the reality of the situation was far more complicated. Why would an entire colony relocate, leaving behind their fort and homes, without any further explanation or distress signals? And why was there no sign of their boats, livestock, or personal belongings? White wanted to sail to Croatoan Island immediately to search for the missing colonists, but a series of storms and bad weather made the journey impossible. Forced to return to England without answers, White was left with only theories. And so began the long, perplexing mystery of the Roanoke Colony. For centuries, historians and researchers have tried to piece together the clues, but the truth remains elusive. Several early theories emerged about what might have happened to the settlers. The first and most obvious theory was that the settlers had indeed relocated to Croatoan Island, hoping to find refuge with the friendly Croatoan tribe. But if they did, why were they never seen again? Despite later expeditions and investigations, no trace of the settlers was ever found on the island. Another theory suggests that the settlers may have fallen victim to starvation or disease. The harsh conditions of Roanoke Island, combined with dwindling supplies and a lack of resources, could have driven the settlers to abandon the colony in search of better land or food. This could explain why they left, but not why they were never found. If they had perished due to starvation or disease, some trace of them, bodies, remains, or even personal belongings, should have been discovered. More ominously, some have speculated that the colony was wiped out by hostile Native American tribes. Although relations with certain tribes were tense, there is no evidence of a violent attack at the settlement site. The fort and homes remained intact, and there were no signs of a struggle. If the settlers had been massacred, it seems unlikely that the village would have been left undisturbed. But perhaps the most fascinating theory is that the settlers attempted to integrate with the local tribes. In the early 1600s, there were reports of Native American groups in the region who had unusually European features: light hair, blue eyes, and knowledge of English customs. Could the settlers have sought refuge with a neighboring tribe, intermarried and blended into Native American society? It's a tantalizing possibility, but no concrete evidence has ever surfaced to confirm this theory. As the mystery deepened, some theorists ventured into more speculative territory. Could the settlers have met a more supernatural or inexplicable fate? With no hard evidence, these ideas remain in the realm of folklore, but they speak to just how confounding the disappearance of Roanoke truly is. Whatever the explanation, the mystery of the lost colony has endured for over 400 years, captivating historians, archaeologists, and the public alike. But despite countless efforts, no one has definitively solved the puzzle of what happened to the settlers. What remains are the clues left behind and the tantalizing questions that refuse to fade. The disappearance of the Roanoke colony has given rise to numerous theories over the centuries, each one trying to explain what truly happened to the settlers. While some ideas are rooted in historical evidence, others venture into the realm of speculation. In this chapter, we'll explore the most prominent theories, from logical conclusions to the more mysterious possibilities. One of the most widely accepted theories is that the settlers sought refuge with the friendly Croatoan tribe on nearby Croatoan Island, now Hatteras Island. The word Croatoan carved into the post seemed to point directly to this possibility. Some historians believe that, facing starvation and isolation, the settlers may have left Roanoke to join the Croatoan people, hoping to survive by integrating with the tribe. This idea is supported by later reports from the early 1600s, which mention Native American tribes with European features, such as light hair and blue eyes. Could these tribes have descendants of the Roanoke settlers among them? It's a compelling idea, but there's no concrete archaeological evidence to confirm that the colonists relocated to Croatoan Island. Despite searches and excavations over the years, no remains or artifacts directly tied to the Roanoke settlers have ever been found there. Another strong theory is that the settlers perished due to starvation, disease, or exposure. The Roanoke colony was established in a harsh environment where food was scarce and the weather was unpredictable. Without the necessary supplies, the settlers may have faced extreme hunger, especially during the winter months. The delay of John White's return left the colony vulnerable, and it's possible that many of them died from malnutrition or illnesses like scurvy or dysentery. This theory is plausible, given the harsh conditions they faced, but it still doesn't explain the total disappearance of all 115 settlers without a trace. No mass graves or significant remains were ever discovered at the colony site, leaving this theory incomplete. Some have speculated that the Roanoke settlers were victims of a violent attack, possibly by neighboring Native American tribes. Relations between the English settlers and some tribes were tense, and the colonists had previously clashed with the Croatoan tribe during the earlier Roanoke expeditions. However, when John White returned in 1590, he found no signs of a struggle. The fort was still standing, and there were no indications of a battle or raid. While it's possible that some of the settlers could have been captured or killed by hostile tribes, the complete lack of evidence makes this theory less convincing. A darker and less popular theory suggests that the settlers attempted to sail back to England on their own and were lost at sea. The settlers did have boats, and it's possible they grew desperate after waiting for years without any sign of Governor White's return. But this theory is also flawed. If they had indeed tried to sail back, why didn't they leave more explicit messages indicating their intent? And why wasn't any wreckage ever found along the coast? The most fascinating and perhaps controversial theory is that the settlers were absorbed into a Native American tribe, adopting their customs and way of life. Some evidence supports this, such as reports of European artifacts being found in native settlements and the physical descriptions of later Native American groups with European features. Additionally, archaeological digs in areas such as Hatteras Island have uncovered tools and objects that may point to interactions between the settlers and the native population. While this theory provides a more peaceful explanation for the settlers' disappearance, it's still lacking definitive proof. Finally, there are more speculative and supernatural theories, including claims of mystical forces or extraterrestrial involvement. Though these ideas are more folklore than fact, they highlight just how deeply the mystery of Roanoke has captivated imaginations for centuries. Each theory offers a glimpse into what might have happened, but none provide all the answers. The search for truth continues. Despite centuries of investigation, the mystery of the Roanoke Colony's disappearance remains one of history's most perplexing unsolved cases. However, in recent years, modern archaeology and scientific research have uncovered new clues that provide tantalizing hints about what may have happened to the settlers. One of the most significant breakthroughs came from archaeological digs on Hatteras Island, which was once known as Croatoan Island. Excavations led by researchers have unearthed a variety of artifacts, including European tools, gun flints, and pottery, that date back to the late 16th century. These findings suggest that there may have been contact between the Roanoke settlers and the Croatoan tribe, supporting the theory that the colonists moved to the island in search of survival. The artifacts, while not conclusive evidence, are consistent with the idea that the settlers could have lived alongside the Croatoan people, adopting their way of life to escape the harsh conditions on Roanoke Island. Another promising lead emerged from a closer examination of a centuries-old map, known as the Virginia Pars map, drawn by Governor John White himself. Researchers from the British Museum discovered two hidden patches on the map, one of which appeared to mark a fort symbol near the Chowan River, about 50 miles inland from Roanoke Island. This led to the hypothesis that some of the settlers may have attempted to move inland, possibly to establish a new settlement further away from the coast. Archaeologists have begun exploring this area, known as Site X, and have found fragments of pottery and other European objects that may have belonged to the lost settlers. While these discoveries are intriguing, no definitive proof has yet been found that directly ties these artifacts to the Roanoke colonists.